The sky was broken, not merely cloudy, not storm-racked, but shattered. It was as if the very fabric of the heavens had been torn apart, leaving behind a mosaic of chaos and beauty. The once seamless expanse above had become a jigsaw puzzle of disjointed realities, each piece telling its own story. Like a dropped mirror, it had fractured. The sky's reflection was no longer a single, cohesive image, but a myriad of fragmented scenes. Each crack and fissure in the sky mirrored the brokenness of the world below, a constant reminder of the cataclysm that had befallen it. Each shard held a different reflection of what the sky once was. Some pieces showed the serene blue of a perfect summer day, while others captured the violent fury of a storm. It was as if time itself had splintered, with each fragment preserving a different moment in the sky's history. Some shards dripped with sluggish time. Clouds moved at a snail's pace, as if trapped in a slow-motion dream. The passage of time had become inconsistent, with some parts of the sky frozen in eternal stillness, while others raced ahead in a blur. Hours crawled by like years. The sun's journey across the sky had become a torturous crawl, casting long, unchanging shadows that seemed to stretch into infinity. The concept of time had lost all meaning, leaving the inhabitants of this world in a state of perpetual limbo. Shadows stretched long and thin under a sun frozen in place. The sun, once a reliable marker of the passage of time, now hung motionless in the sky, casting eerie, elongated shadows that seemed to mock the very idea of progress. Other shards pulsed with chaotic gravity. People walked on walls, defying the natural order. Gravity had become a fickle force, shifting and twisting in unpredictable ways. It was a world where the rules of physics no longer applied, and reality itself seemed to be unraveling. Birds plummeted upwards only to hang upside down in a mockery of flight. The sky had become a topsy-turvy realm where up was down and down was up. Birds, once masters of the air, now found themselves at the mercy of this twisted reality. There were shards of suffocating heat. The air shimmered with intense heat waves, distorting the view and making it difficult to breathe. It was as if the very atmosphere had turned against the inhabitants, subjecting them to relentless oppressive heat. Air shimmered with impossible temperatures. The heat was so intense that it created mirages, making it hard to distinguish reality from illusion. The sky itself seemed to be on fire, a blazing inferno that threatened to consume everything in its path. Rivers boiled away into hissing steam. The once life-giving waters had turned into deadly cauldrons, their surfaces roiling with steam. The heat had become so extreme that even the rivers could not escape its grasp, evaporating into nothingness. And there were shards that wept endless rain. The sky wept ceaselessly, unleashing torrents of rain that never seemed to end. It was a world of perpetual deluge, where the ground was always wet and the air was filled with the sound of falling water. A deluge that drowned the world in a symphony of sorrow. This was Kieran's world, a world forever fractured. The endless rain had turned the land into a vast waterlogged wasteland, where hope seemed as distant as the sun, a world yearning for wholeness. Despite the chaos and destruction, there was a glimmer of hope. The people of this shattered world longed for a return to normalcy, for the sky to be mended and the natural order to be restored. They yearned for a future where the sky was once again a symbol of stability and peace. Kieran wasn't born under a whole sky. He had only known the shattered remnants. Yet, he carried the stories of a unified sky in his heart, tales whispered by the wind, legends etched in the lines of his weathered face. He remembered the stories his grandfather used to tell, of a time when the sun and moon chased each other across an unbroken expanse, of a time when rain fell in gentle showers, nourishing the earth. Kieran carried the weight of those memories, the weight of a lost world, and with it, he carried the burden of hope. The desperate, audacious hope of restoring what was lost. He would find a way to piece the sky back together. He had to. His journey led him to the Oracle of the Shards. Kieran had traveled for days, through dense forests and over rugged mountains, driven by a purpose he could barely articulate. The path was treacherous, filled with obstacles that tested his resolve at every turn. Yet, he pressed on, guided by an ancient map and the whispers of legends that spoke of a mystical figure who could mend what was broken. She lived in a cave veiled by cascading waterfalls. The entrance was almost impossible to find, hidden behind a curtain of water that sparkled in the sunlight. It was a place of seclusion, untouched by time and the outside world. The sound of the waterfalls was deafening, a constant roar that seemed to guard the secrets within. The air crackled with an energy that sent shivers down his spine. As Kieran stepped into the cave, he felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. It was as if the very air was alive, charged with a mystical force that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The cave was dimly lit, with shimmering lights dancing on the walls, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. The oracle was ancient. Her eyes, two pools of endless night, held the wisdom of eons. She sat on a stone throne, her presence commanding and serene. Her skin was weathered, etched with the lines of countless years, and her hair flowed like silver rivers down her back. Despite her age, there was a vitality in her gaze, a spark that spoke of untold power and knowledge. Kieran approached her with reverence, his heart pounding like a drum. Each step felt heavy, laden with the weight of his quest and the significance of this moment. He had heard tales of the oracle's wisdom and her ability to see into the very fabric of reality. Now, standing before her, he felt a mix of awe and trepidation, unsure of what to expect. "You seek to mend what is broken," the oracle rasped. Her voice was like the rustling of ancient leaves, filled with a depth that resonated through the cave. It was a voice that carried the weight of centuries, each word imbued with a sense of purpose and destiny. Kieran nodded, unable to find his voice, his mission laid bare before this enigmatic figure. Her voice echoed with the sound of shifting tectonic plates. It was as if the very earth responded to her words, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to come from the core of the planet. The cave itself seemed to hum with her presence, the walls reverberating with an ancient power that was both awe-inspiring and humbling. It was a statement, not a question. The oracle's eyes bore into Kieran's soul, seeing through his exterior to the very essence of his being. There was no need for him to explain his purpose, she already knew. Her gaze was penetrating, filled with an understanding that transcended words. It was as if she could see the threads of fate that bound him to his quest. She held out a hand. A shard of sky rested in her palm. It was a fragment of something far greater, a piece of the heavens that had fallen to earth. The shard was unlike anything Kieran had ever seen, its surface smooth and cool to the touch, yet it seemed to pulse with an inner light. It shimmered, a miniature storm of swirling colors. The shard was a kaleidoscope of hues, shifting and changing with every movement. It was as if it contained the essence of the sky itself, a living, breathing piece of the cosmos. Kieran could feel its power, a raw, untamed energy that was both mesmerizing and intimidating. This was no ordinary fragment. It pulsed with a power that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. The shard seemed to have a life of its own, its light growing brighter and then dimming, as if it were breathing. Kieran could sense the immense potential within it, a force that could either create or destroy, depending on how it was wielded. "Find the others," the oracle commanded, her voice echoing through the cave. There was an urgency in her tone, a sense of impending doom that spurred Kieran into action. He knew that his quest was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The oracle's words were a call to arms, a directive that he could not ignore. Only then can you begin to heal the sky. The oracle's final words hung in the air, a solemn reminder of the gravity of his mission. Kieran felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to see his quest through to the end. He bowed deeply to the oracle, his heart filled with gratitude and resolve, before turning to leave the cave and continue his journey. Section 4. The Crimson Wasteland. His search for the remaining shards led him across treacherous landscapes. He braved the Crimson Wasteland, a desolate expanse baked under a shard of eternal heat. The air rippled with heat waves, distorting the horizon. The ground, cracked and parched, offered no respite. The sun, a malevolent eye, glared down mercilessly. Kieran trekked for days, his throat parched, his skin blistered. The relentless heat threatened to consume him, but he pressed on. The weight of his quest fueled his every step. He encountered strange creatures, twisted remnants of a world struggling to adapt. They were as much a part of the broken sky as he was. Section 5. The City of Perpetual Dusk. He stumbled upon the City of Perpetual Dusk, a place unlike any other he had ever seen. The city was perpetually bathed in the soft, muted hues of twilight, as if time itself had decided to pause and linger in this moment of serene beauty. The sky was a canvas of purples, pinks, and blues, blending together in a harmonious dance that seemed to stretch on forever. It was a place trapped beneath a shard of endless twilight, where the sun never fully set, nor did it ever rise. The air was cool and carried a faint, sweet scent that was both comforting and melancholic. The city seemed to exist in a state of perpetual calm, a stark contrast to the bustling, ever-changing world outside its borders. The city was beautiful in a melancholic way, with its cobblestone streets and old-fashioned gas lights that flickered softly in the dim light. There was a sense of timelessness here, as if the city had been plucked from another era and placed gently into this perpetual dusk. The buildings, with their intricate facades and tall, narrow windows, seemed to whisper stories of a bygone age. Buildings soared, reaching for a sky they could never touch. Their spires and rooftops stretched upwards as if yearning to break free from the twilight and touch the heavens. Yet, no matter how high they reached, they remained firmly rooted in the city, bound by the same unchanging twilight that enveloped everything. The streets, lit by flickering gaslights, were eerily empty. There was a quiet stillness that hung in the air, broken only by the occasional soft footfall or the distant murmur of voices. It was as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for something that would never come. The citizens, pale and ethereal, moved with a languid grace. They seemed to glide rather than walk, their movements slow and deliberate, as if they had all the time in the world. They welcomed Kieran with gentle smiles and soft words, their voices carrying a melodic quality that was both soothing and haunting. They offered him shelter and shared their stories, tales of a time when the city was bathed in the warm light of day, and the sky was a brilliant blue. They spoke of a great calamity that had befallen the city, shattering the sky and casting it into perpetual dusk. Despite the sadness in their eyes, there was a sense of hope that lingered in their words. They, too, yearned for a whole sky. They longed to see the sun rise and set, to feel the warmth of its rays on their skin, and to gaze upon the stars that had been hidden from them for so long. Their longing was palpable, a deep ache that resonated within Kieran's own heart. They dreamed of a dawn that never came. Kieran listened to their stories, feeling a connection to these people who had been trapped in this twilight world for so long. He felt their pain, their longing, and their hope. It was a hope that one day, the sky would heal, and the city would be bathed in the light of a new dawn. He learned about the Skybreakers, a faction that had risen in the aftermath of the calamity. They were a group of individuals who believed that the perpetual dusk was a gift, a source of power that should be preserved at all costs. They thrived in the chaos, using the twilight to their advantage, a faction that thrived in the chaos. They saw the twilight as an opportunity to seize control, to bend the city to their will. They were ruthless and cunning, willing to do whatever it took to maintain their grip on power. They believed a whole sky would rob them of their power. To them, the return of the sun and the stars would mean the end of their reign. They feared the light, for it would expose their deeds and strip away the shadows in which they thrived. They sought to prevent the sky from ever healing. They worked tirelessly to ensure that the city remained in perpetual dusk, using their influence and power to suppress any efforts to restore the sky. Kieran knew that if he was to help the city, he would have to confront the Skybreakers and find a way to bring back the light. Section 6. The Skybreakers. Kieran's quest became a race against time. He had to find the remaining shards before the Skybreakers. They hunted him relentlessly. Their motives were shrouded in darkness. They were shadows, whispers in the wind. They could be anywhere, anyone. They were drawn to the shards, their presence a palpable darkness. He faced them in the shifting sands of a gravity-defying desert. He fought them in the heart of a storm, where rain fell upwards and lightning danced in reverse. Each encounter left him wounded, exhausted, but he couldn't afford to rest. The fate of the world, the hope of a whole sky, rested on his shoulders. Section 7. A Glimmer of Hope. More shards were found, each discovery a beacon of hope. He felt their power thrumming within him, a symphony of light and energy. He found one nestled in the heart of a volcano. The molten lava parted for him as if recognizing its kin. He found another frozen in a glacier, a shard of eternal winter. The world, it seemed, was aiding him, guiding him towards his destiny. The closer he came to restoring the sky, the stronger he felt. He was no longer just Kieran, he was the collector of shards, the weaver of skies, the bringer of hope.